Hey, y'all. What's happening? Sorry, I'm a few minutes late. Just getting situated here. Took me a minute. Yeah. I've decided, this is a little aside here, that sourdough toast is now acceptable in my quest to be always gluten-free. I've avoided it forever. But sourdough seems to work, just saying, especially this one in particular from the Boy and the Bear in Pasadena. If you're ever at the Boy and the Bear in Pasadena, you should go there. If you're ever in Pasadena, I should say, go to the Boy and the Bear. That's where this coffee's from. I'm going to give them my full endorsement. The coffee's fantastic. The sourdough bread, little bread and butter, I'm just going to enjoy. It was fantastic. So I'm blaming on them, though, that I'm a few minutes late because I ordered this to go. They brought it out on a nice plate for there. Well, kind of long wait for just some sourdough and butter and jam, but they brought it out on a nice plate. I said, I gotta go, and they were like, oh, okay, we'll make it a go. And then they went in the back, and it was 10 more minutes. And so anyway, I'm late. But minor detail, it's so good. Salted butter, delicious. Now listen, I've had a bit of a week, if you know what I mean. That's an understatement. It's just been one of those life periods. And so this week, you guys are going to help me out as we do here. As hopefully I can do for you sometimes, because this is our therapy. It should be called Pete Thorn Sunday Therapy, because it is like therapy. Yeah, join the club, somebody says. And that is apropos. Join the club because everybody's going through it. You know, that's the reality, is that everybody's got stuff going on, and it's hard, right? It's a hard go. Can be these days. So when we have a good time, like here right now, we're going to enjoy ourselves. I'm going to enjoy the sourdough toast. I'm not going to deny myself eating my mouth full. Sorry. I'm talking with my mouth full. Sorry. Eating with my mouth full. I'm not going to deny myself anymore. Sourdough doesn't seem to bother me. People have told me that for years, and I was like, nah, I'm not going to try. And then I did. And it's like, it's good. Easier to digest, supposedly. So yeah, on the metaphorical couch with Pete Thorn. That sounds a little weird. But yeah, essentially, that's what we're doing. You're right. Stay away from my couch. I've got a couch back there. It's pretty good. I use it sometimes. Not mine. It was sort of donated. It was actually somebody that didn't have anything to do with it. And they're like, hey, do you want to put this couch in your room? Because I don't have any room to store it. And I was like, yeah, I'll put a couch in. It's nice to have a couch in a room like this. And I actually utilize that thing. I'll go back there and take a nap every now and then. Yeah. And it's, good 20 minute. Sometimes I'm sitting here and I'm mixing or, trying to write something, and I realize I'm passing out. I'm like, I'm not focusing. I can't hear anymore. I'll just go back there and crash for 20. I've discovered at this point in my life the pleasures of napping. It's fantastic. Sunday Live gives us a nice break from the craziness in the world. Thank you for doing this program. Hey, I appreciate it. I wouldn't miss it, Milton Gore. And I never miss it. If at all possible, I'll be here. It's only when it's really extreme where I can't. But yeah, I appreciate you guys, and it's always nice coming here and talking guitar and music and stuff like that. Life's what happens when you're busy making other plans. That's right. Never quite goes the way it's supposed to. Oh, let's talk about this. Saw Bryan Adams last night, Detroit. Amazing show. Keith Scott was amazing as expected. Awesome. Brian's inspiration, I was talking about Kim Mitchell. I was talking with Kim Mitchell about Brian while we were waiting in line at Will Call for tickets for Rush. There's some Canadian stuff right there. Waiting in line for the Rush tickets, and Brian came up, and Kim's got great respect for Brian, and they're both incredible examples of Canadian artists and I mean, all three of them, Rush, Kim Mitchell, and Bryan Adams, of aging gracefully and being exceptional, late career artists, I guess you could say. They're just all on fire. I mean, doing great. It's great. It's awesome to see, actually. It's awesome to see people that are around from the, essentially the late 70s, really, right? Mid to late 70s for certainly Rush and Kim. Brian, making his name in the 80s, but he was around in the 70s doing stuff too, out west, and very inspiring. The way that they live their lives, and I don't know, I love it. It makes me proud of my country, actually, to think that I hadn't really thought about it, but it's like the Canadians that are, even have you guys been watching the Rush interviews lately? Like, there was a great one that popped up yesterday. Rolling Stone Canada has been putting up snippets on Instagram, and I got to go watch. I just saw it popped up in my feed as soon as I went to sign on here, my YouTube feed. The whole interview's up, and I got to go watch the whole thing because it seems like one of the best that I've. The clips are like, incredible. And Alex was talking about smoking pot, and he's like, yeah, I was like really, long time pot smoker. And he just kind of lets it all hang out, and he's really honest about it. He's like, yeah, I really enjoyed it. He's like, that's something that I, and he explained kind of how he would approach it. And then he made a commitment to, like with many things, I think he's changed his diet. I don't know if he drinks at all anymore. He said at one point he said, I'm not drinking at all. And then now I'm not sure. Maybe he does a little, but I don't know. I'm not really certain about that. But I guess he cut pot out completely. And that's hard. It's a hard thing to do, especially if you've done it for years and years and years and years and years. So kudos to him. But he was like, I just wanted to be able to focus. Both him and Getty talking about for like kind of like a year and a half leading up to this tour about recalibrating and just kind of, Getty, there's a clip of him talking about how his daughter noticed that on stage he's smiling and he looks so happy, and she said, I haven't seen you smile in a long time, because I guess he's so serious, like leading up to it. That's the way it can go, right? I mean, it's like leading up to big gigs and the serious, like you really take it seriously and what's going to happen and all. It's amazing to know that they still feel that way. They're not phoning it in, that they owe the fans the best. And Getty talks a lot about that in the Rolling Stone interview, that the high standards, and I think we're seeing that with the gigs, the amount of work that they've put in, and his singing's, Getty's voice. I mean, some people love it, some people hate it. It's like, I guess it's acquired taste. I've always thought it was, I can't imagine Rush being any different or sounding any different. It's perfect to me, even though he's got an unconventional voice, kind of like Billy Corgan or different folks, unconventional, but they make it work. And it's the best version of him we've heard in 20 years easily. So it's really inspiring, And I guess that ties into how we started here, because talking about difficulties and challenges, and everybody's got challenges, and those guys face head on aging and challenges, and the challenge of losing Neil and everything, and they do it with grace, and it's so inspiring. I guess that's what we love about seeing them back playing together at the end of the day. All right, there's some thoughts on that. Yeah. Okay, what else are we talking about here? I saw you guys talking about, the other challenges that people deal with right now is, of course, fires everywhere, fires in Europe. And I saw some, it's really difficult in Croatia right now. It sounds like Spain and, certainly France. These are places I love. And so it's a terrible thing. Yeah, we could go further into that, but we won't, just we got to change as human beings, or that's not going to change, and we have to listen to scientists. Science is there science is apolitical. Science doesn't care about money. The science, the truth, it's a search for the truth, and the truth is what we have to face. So that's it. Let's live in reality, right? Power nap. Exactly. I love power naps. Good for your brain. Yeah. Don't forget to like that smash button. I like that. Sourdough is fermented. Yes, exactly. Just like beer. So beer must be good for us as well. Well, some fermented beverages. I don't know about beer. Certainly kombucha seems to be. I like a good hard kombucha, as well as just non-alcoholic kombucha. Delicious. So it's a total acquired taste. I remember a friend of mine having one once and going, "Oh, that's god awful." I don't know what he thought it was going to taste like, but it was one of those June Shine, the Pog one, I think, and he hated it. Brian Keith just don't age. Well, the thing about them is they're doing the hard work. I mean, Brian is devout vegan, doesn't drink alcohol and stuff like that. So he just works really hard on himself, I think is what it is. If you work really hard, you can age gracefully. I guess that's the moral. Once again, science. He follows the science. Have you seen the PV amp pedal? I have not. Let's take a look. Let's take a look at the PV amp pedal and talk about that for a minute. Let's take a look. Session LTD 400 preamp pedal or BAM? Are we talking about like looks like there's some different ones. There's a couple preamps, teal stripe preamp pedal. Interesting. This is a bold move on their part because nobody talks about some of these amps as being like the gold standard of tone. I got out of the Bandit Supreme preamp pedal. Got that Bandit tone on my pedal board. I've got an affinity for those amps. I mean, but kind of funny. Oh, there's a VTM pedal. Now that's cool. That's cool. Very interesting. It says it's a stomp box. It's not a friggin' or a compressor. It's not a compressor. A VTM pedal. Because that's now a little known fact here. We'll just blow the doors wide open on this one. The VTM was a Jose, essentially. I mean, in one mode, you could set the switches. So it was essentially, it was a poor man's Jose. Essentially like a Marshall that had been converted to a Jose spec gain stage in front of Plexi with similar kind of component values and stuff like that. So new here's a Reddit thread about them, new PVP amp pedals. There's a Bandit, the Decade, the VTM, the Rockmaster, and the Session 400. Well, out of all of those, I guess the Session 400 is kind of interesting because it was supposed to be real clean, and it was like for steel guitar mainly, I think, was the idea, was that you'd see steel guitar players use that, right? Rockmaster was a 3-channel preamp. Decade was the tiny, I guess if you're going for the Josh Homme thing, the Decade, right? That was what that was, the tiny little guy. And so that might be neat. I mean, for like a broken, small, mid-rangey, those types of tones could be cool. I love, I just think a big part of the sound of those amps was the speaker. I mean, they were tiny, open back combo, that kind of thing. But yeah. And the Bandit I always had affinity for. I mean, it was cool, but I'm not going to necessarily get a pedal to get that tone on my pedal board. I am intrigued by the VTM. Kind of should get one. I should just buy one and do a video of it. Just to see what it's all about. I don't have any connections at PV. I don't know anybody there, but yeah. Interesting. PV preamp pedals. Who knew? Maybe I saw them a week ago or two, and it just didn't register, like the Bandit and I seem to remember the Bandit and stuff, but I didn't realize there was a VTM or Session 400. I know that until now, until this moment. What else are we talking here? There's a super chat coming in. I'll grab that in just a sec. Yeah. Jen's got to let her cats out. See, I won't do that. My cats are firmly indoor creatures. Well, I can't. I live in a, it's not the type of building where there's not an outside they could go to, the place I live. So, but even so, even if I did live in a house, I've got post-traumatic stress disorder from cats that were outdoor cats, and then due to fleas and problems and stuff, it's like, no, that's not going to happen anymore. Kept them inside after that. And then they just wanted to get outside for the rest of their lives. They were like, once a cat's an outdoor cat, it's hard to keep him inside, I think. My one little guy, this dude, he is scared still. And he's going on it's going on 2 years old now, and he still doesn't want to associate with me. I mean, he's so scared of everything all the time. He's so feral, and he hasn't really adjusted. I mean, I try and be really sweet to him, with treats and the churu and all that stuff, and he just he, he's still scared. And I don't know what happened to him, but he was an outdoor. He's got no desire to go outside, I don't think. But I think he's kind of crazy. He's scared of everything. He must have had a really rough first 4 months of his life or so until I ended up rescuing him, and it was around 5 or 6 months old, something like that. But he spent his early life on the streets, and whatever happened to him imprinted him pretty hard. Yeah. Brian was in a band back in '69. You don't say. I got my first real 6-string. Yeah. Yeah. I think he had some association with Nick Gilder, right? Back in the, didn't they play together in a band? Maybe. I think that's possible. Another great artist from Canada. Nick Gilder, man, some of the coolest. For those that have never listened to Nick Gilder, check out some of his, work in the 's. Great sounding records, man. Like so well recorded. You might know "Hot Child in the City" or what was his other big hit that kind of I can't remember the name of it. It'll come to me. But anyway, "Hot Child in the City" was a bit of a US crossover hit, I think. But there's a lot of other great songs there. Just check out his '70s stuff. It's glam rock, kind of T-Rex, kind of. It's got its own thing going on though, and kind of his androgynous voice and it's so cool. Like and the guitar tones were so good. It's some of that great Canadian stuff, like some of the stuff that was recorded up there in Canada in the '70s, including the Heart records. Some of the best sounding records. My favorite engineered records are some of the records that came out of like Mushroom and those studios in Vancouver in the '70s. They're just warm and fat and clear as a bell. It's a little like Rush too. Like Rush, the records sound so good to me. Moving Pictures and Signals, I think, sounds exceptional. I do. I even like the sound of Signals more than Moving Pictures, like the drum sounds and stuff. And Permanent Waves and those, Terry Brown produced records and the everything they did at the studio and everything, just the warmth and they were warm and clear. They just sound good and they're just great to listen to. They had power and they pulled you in and, such a great sound. And that's kind of like Nick Gilder's recordings too, totally different style of music, but the drum sounds, the toms and just the way that the guitar tones and the vocal, it just sounds so good. It's like, I love listening to that music on vinyl, especially would be the way, but yeah, great for me. The Rolling Stone interview is amazing, very authentic and sincere interview. Yeah, I guess that's what I seem to notice. They get deep and they talking about, fear and aging and doing their best and all kinds of great stuff that they seem to get into. So, yeah. He said a little wine. Yeah, it seems like he's maybe like every now and then, but he's really like, it's great to hear older people talk about trying to do better and being real, trying to, I love hearing about the ups and downs and the struggles and insecurity and fear and, all coming from older people, just the reality of life, as opposed to just like, yeah, I've got it all together. Who's that, right? So, yeah. I miss the Alex Getty and Neil Dinner videos. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I hope they do with Annika. Yeah, me too. And Lauren, because I'm going to tell you something about Lauren. He's funny. And so when I heard that Lauren was doing the gig, one of the first things I thought was like, oh man, those guys hanging out is going to be, because Lauren's got this real dry sense of humor and he's really quick, and he's highly intelligent and really quick, and he's a great hang. And he's a joker. So it's like with them, like I was like, that is perfect. Like I knew when I heard he was doing it, I was like, well, first of all, they're going to get along famously and feel very comfortable with him because he's really into baseball like Getty is. So it all makes sense to me, Yeah. Huh. I'm seeing Rush in December for my birthday. That's awesome. Where? I know they're playing in my hometown. I might try and go to that maybe. I got to get home, and maybe that's the time when I should just book a trip and get to Edmonton for a second and maybe try and hit one of those shows. I'd love to see them again. I was a little sad after the Toronto show because I was like, well, I guess that's it. I did it. I saw them a couple times and I kind of didn't want it to stop. I guess that's the super fan, flying around to see bands. And here I am, one of those guys. It's like I always see the people in the crowd that come to the multiple shows on tours, and now I'm that guy, going to the gigs, which is fine. I love it. It keeps me connected to music from a fan perspective. It feels really good. Yeah. Kombucha straight through dirty gym socks. That's not true. That is not true. Beer makes me sad. Does it? That's good to see. There you go. You got to pay attention to that. I got to grab these super chats here. For the coffee and sourdough. Thanks. Appreciate that. Paul, should have gone to see Bryan Adams last Friday night. Regret not going. Yeah, I went to see him. It already felt like, oh wow, he's getting older, and it was 20 years ago. I went to see him, and he was great. He was really great. I saw him at the Wiltern in LA. It was a really good show. Sang his ass off. Super good. Yeah. Hi from Edmonton. Hope you're well. Are you going to see Rush in December? Maybe I'll be there. I still haven't seen a show in that building either. For me, Edmonton concerts were Northlands Coliseum. I've never been to the Rogers or whatever arena downtown. So I thought, well, it'd be a chance to go check out that place. And maybe I could just stay right there downtown somewhere and walk over there and visit my sister and stuff and family. So I should get back. I might just do it. Make a plan. Yeah. I bought the Schultz sugar cone based on your recommendation, Pete. Just a long way. Oh, so you don't. Oh, you ordered one, so you don't have it yet. Well, let us know what you think when you get it. I wonder if that means they sold through, because they had a couple hundred there when I did that video. So that's good news, maybe. I hope the video helped them move some speakers, because it's a good one. I kind of want a 412 with them. This sounds really good. It replaced Nick Gilder and Sweeney Todd. So is the timeline Nick went to go solo, and then Brian took over in Sweeney Todd, and then Brian went solo eventually, right? Must be. I thought they maybe were playing together for a minute, but maybe not. That'd be a cool tour. Nick Gilder and Bryan Adams. And Kim Mitchell. Holy shit, would I ever go to that so hard? Arena tour. That'd be great. Kim, yeah, Nick could open, then Kim, then Brian, and then they all jam at the end. Come on. Canadian Rock Arena Tour 2027. What a good idea. I'm just full of them. Full of it for sure, but full of ideas as well. Okay, I'm reading the comments here. That's why my eyes probably look funny, because I'm reading right now. Just a minute. I hope your cat turns around. I've got 2 rescues from Moldova. Wow, they're indoors cat, but I've got a big enclosed area in my garden where they can go outside. That's so nice. That's the best. Good on you. I wish I had that, like a balcony that was enclosed and they could go outside. That'd be so cool. Yeah. I feel bad sometimes, but then I also remember both the cats are rescues, and they top shelf food and get lots of love. So their life is better than it would have been on the streets for sure. Yeah, like no comparison. Yeah. Let's see. Moving pictures on vinyl sounds awesome. Yeah. Oh, Roxy Roller was the other one, right? Roxy Roller and Hot Child in the City. Exactly. Yeah. Great tunes. Mike Chapman is the man behind a lot of those great sound. Is that right? I don't know anything about Mike Chapman. And maybe you could put a website or like, I guess I could just write that down. I'll just take a picture of the screen so that I remember to go research him, because I haven't really done that, like gone and looked into who made those great Heart records sound so good, or the Nick Gilder, or, was he he's probably like some staff engineer or something in Vancouver that was just awesome. Yeah, I got to learn. Okay. What else we got here? There's a super chat. Let's catch that. Thanks for the super chats, guys. Glad to hear Alex is sober now. I just quit a 25-year-long daily weed habit, and my guitar playing has improved significantly. Yeah, that's awesome, man. I definitely think that there's no free lunch, when it comes to he said exactly what in the interview. He's alluding to the fact that, it's fun creatively and stuff, but it's not like he sounded very good or was playing that well, which is, I think that's what I've seen with most people with pot. It's just been my observation. I know plenty of functioning pot, addicts that, I don't know if they're addicts, but just daily pot users. I think if you're probably addicted if you do anything daily, but no judgment here. Just stating that probably scientifically once again, but it definitely, the observation I've made is that it doesn't make your playing better, and that's, both would be myself as well as others. It's fun, and it's like a fun escape, like anything, because you're trying to change your chemistry is all it is, so that you feel better, or take yourself to a different place. And maybe for creativity, sure, writing, 100%, you might come up with things that you wouldn't, or you might. One thing I've noticed is that you could come up with something you think it's brilliant in the moment, and then you listen to it later and it may be kind of mundane, or just like the other things that you come up with, not really like, but in the moment it seems like it's really brilliant. So maybe what pot does is help you not move past that so fast, but ruminate on it, and it lets it become an idea that, where you're not editing so much. You're like, oh, that sounds really cool. Like I've, records that you're like, that song's amazing, or a mix or whatever, you listen to it, it sounds really good. And then later you're like, that's kind of normal, really, but maybe you're just more open to the nuance of it or something. And then you ruminate on it, let it percolate for a while and develop a riff or something. I think that's a thing. Whatever, but as far as, yeah, anyway, okay, moving on. What else? The show I'm seeing in December is in Atlanta. Wow, so they get all the way from Atlanta somehow up to Edmonton on routing. That's interesting. That's cool. After seeing them at least 5 times back in the day, couldn't do the price for this. So I think now wondering if I missed out. It's a pretty great show. If there's a way you can get to a show, I would go. I know the tickets are expensive, and that's a thing, and maybe you just can't, and I totally respect and understand, but it cost me a hell of a lot of money, I'll tell you that. And I don't regret it. I mean, it was expensive to go for the week, and now I'm looking at it and going, ooh, like, it's just, but I don't regret it. I won't regret it later on. I know that I saw them on this tour, and yeah. I saw where Satch injured his finger this week. Yeah, I know. I sent him a message and just hoping he get well soon and stuff. And but I think he's okay. He wrote back and said he's fine. He's gonna be fine. So yeah, love that guy. I miss him. He's a great cat. Let's see. I'm going to the Weezer concert. Cool. Awesome. Say hi to Scott Schreiner. I go way back with that guy. That's what we do to see CRS go from UK to Netherlands to Luxembourg. We don't want it to stop. Well, and that is, supposed to be the spirit of CRS, is a great celebration of music, and it's supposed to be a really good time at the end of the day. That's it. So that's what we've always aimed to get to with it. That it takes you back, to what it feels like or what it felt like, to see all that music for real, the real bands and everything when you're younger. The closer we can get to that, the better, I think. Haywire, Lee Aaron, Helix, and a few other bands played in Halifax the last few days. Yeah, I saw that, actually. There's a girl I know that's a singer of a band. She actually sings in Toronto now. The band, which is, I'm not sure how many original members, but anyway, and I think she was at the thing that you're talking about, that gig in Halifax. Maybe you saw it, Todd. Yeah, my 3 cats are spoiled, pampered, want nothing to do with outside. Screened-in porch. Yeah, screened-in porch is what I wish I had. There's a super chat. Thanks, John. Do you have experience with Fuchs ODS 100? I don't. No. Don't know any Fuchs amps really. Yeah. So I assume it's a Dumble style of some sort, right? I played an interesting Dumble style amp this week. It was John Shank's Deluxe Reverb that was modded by Dumble, rebuilt by Dumble. It's cool. I really liked it dirty. I thought it doesn't exactly do the Deluxe Reverb thing that we all know them for, which is like a real scoop mid-range, that kind of sparkly Fender thing. It was more of a honking mid-range thing, but turn it up to 7, 8, 9. It sounded better and better the louder it got. And then it was kind of Joe Bonamassa sounds at when it was up real high. It was like a good or Robin Ford or something. Good lead amp with a Les Paul, I think. Not super gainy, but just that fat, more mid-rangey. I think the changes were made in the EQ, and the way that the Fender EQ is really scooped, it was modified to not do that as much and stuff. So, yeah, Russ at Rogers should be great. Yeah, I would think it'd be great, right? Edmonton's always a great place to see rock shows. People want to rock there, so yeah. Yeah, it's good to see fam whenever you can. Absolutely. As you get older, they start passing. There's so much you wish you'd said. Hey, believe me, I know. So both my parents have passed on and stuff. So I've got the reality of that hardcore imprinted. Yeah. Let's see. But yeah, you're right. It's good. Even you just saying, it's always good to remind. Yep. Probably it's time. Get up there and stuff. Cannabis is the only plant that has the same endocannabinoid system as us. It's not for everyone, but it was created for everyone. Sounds like somebody that appreciates their bud. But no, I like where you're coming from. Mm-hmm. Okay, what else? What else? Are you going to demo the MXR flange doubler? Would love to. Generally, when they need a video for something, they contact me. I didn't hear about that one. They asked me to do the high gain EVH, the Rockman. They'll be like, sometimes companies are like, we specifically want a Pete video for whatever for their product. And then you kind of know it right away. But then other times they might be like, yeah, we got this covered. Because the marketing for certain products, they got a budget for that stuff. And maybe sometimes they feel like the guy that did, for instance, and I think he was designed it, but the bass filter pedal, that was amazing. Like the video that he made for that was so good, yeah. Anyway, Todd says, Rock in the Harbor, Helix only had like 2 original members. I saw Helix back in the day, man. I remember them. I remember I felt really bad because I was like in the front row. This is like so Canadian, but I was rocking out and headbanging and shaking my fist, and I hit the guy's guitar, man. He had one of those carven, he smiled and laughed at me, but it was like one of those carven, looks like an X, like Craig from Starship used to play. And I remember and I fist right into the headstock. That's my memory of Helix, of the Helix show. I was up right against the stage. That was cool. Obviously to punch the guitar. Oh, anyway, what's going on here? I have tickets for Motley Crue, Tesla, and Extreme tomorrow night, but heat index here in Charlotte is going to be 105. Oh, sorry to hear that. Can't go due to recent health issues. It's just too damn hot everywhere. That is really the problem. Thanks for the big time demo, says Sonic Blue. Really helped me with learning the pedal. Any further thoughts on using the X88 and IR load as a power amp? Yeah, and we're actually implementing something on it this week that is a feature that'll bode well for that. It's definitely something you can do to it, with it, with it. Like using it, it's going to be a great power amp. It's not the primary. We've been kind of, trying to establish that as far as like also just marketing the unit and everything. But it's like, yes, it is a fantastic power amp. There's other units. You already know about the pedal head. It's a small power amp, for instance. That'll be great, that are a dedicated just to power amp. It doesn't have the load, obviously, right? It's going to be a lot less money because it doesn't have a load box built in. So depending on how much power you need, you might be fine with something like the pedal head in the X88 IR. If you want a rack mount, maybe there's going to be something else that'll be for that. You know what I mean? That's just a power amp. But if you want a load box with a great power amp that'll also function just as a power amp, if you can use that like an all-in-one, you need one of these units for multiple different reasons. And one of the things you'd like to do is power an X88 IR and have a great sounding power amp that sounds like what it's supposed to, a Soldano, power amp. Great option. It's definitely a great option. Yeah. Plus it'll do all kinds of other fun things. So the power amp, the neat thing about it is its ability to act like a bunch of different power amps. There's nothing like it on earth. Nobody else makes anything like this thing. I can say that confidently. No, nobody's put it together like this. So all the stuff in one. Yeah. So you're doing a video for an amp you can't talk about. Can you say when we can expect the video? Dropping later this month, last week of the month, I think. I got to do the video this week, I think. And so in a couple weeks. Cool amp. You'll like it, I think. Let's see. MXR high gain, great sounding pedal. Yes, I agree. They did a nice job on that one. Pete makes the best demos online. Thank you. Oh, by the way, video for Timeline MX. I got just more involved with it, and so I haven't put it out yet, but it's basically done. I'll either put it out Monday or Tuesday. Wednesday at the latest, okay? Timeline MX video. I'm going to try and finish it today, I think, and then maybe I can just set it for release Monday or Tuesday. Really, really good sounding. One of the questions that I aim to answer in the video is, why would I want to get this pedal if I've got an original Timeline? Is it worth upgrading? And I try and answer that through showing some of the extra things that you get with this. Essentially, the cool thing being you can run 2 separate delays at once. It's also a pretty full-blown reverb. It doesn't have a million reverb sounds, but if your reverb needs run, like you need a good hall/room, that's got a really nice tone, long, short, whatever, just a good basic reverb. You don't need another reverb pedal on your board. And the advantage with the Timeline MX is the routing. So the cool thing about Strymon pedals is that they've got an analog dry path. And with the Timeline MX, you can actually have a parallel delay and reverb at the same time, and you've got that analog dry path maintained. So it's almost like you've got a mixer on your board with separate reverb and delay pedals. That's pretty cool in my book. It just keeps the tones really clear and pure. When you run, a delay into a reverb, great sound can be really cool. And all in an effect loop of an amp, maybe with no true bypass or no analog dry through, I should say, or analog dry path, like a lot of pedals don't have one that are digital. You just get a slightly less clear sound. There's something about having analog dry path, which is why I have a mixer on my main pedal board, the parallelizer from Musicom Lab. Analog dry path, and then parallel effects, delay and reverb mixed in parallel. You can use more delay and more reverb, and you never lose your dry punch. It just sounds more dramatic and clear at the same time. And I don't know how else to put it than that. That's what I think the advantage to running parallel in a parallel mixer is. So you kind of get there with this pedal without needing the mixer and without needing another reverb pedal, you know? So I'm trying to show that in the video, as well as some of the great, you know, other tones you can get out of it that just don't exist in the original timeline because they came later. Like, for example, I'm looking at it right now. One of the last things I did yesterday was using the drum echo, which is emulating a Benson with multiple taps, you know, or multiple playback heads or whatever. So you can get, it's kind of like primitive multi-tap delay, but it works the same essentially. And you can pan those echoes anywhere. So you get this, you know, the tone of a Benson is legendary. I mean, they had this great warble to them and just a really cool kind of, you know, the way that the delays diffuse and tail out is lovely on a Benson. The modulation, so cool. And the ability to have multiple delay taps spread across the stereo spectrum, all doing that thing, and be able to control the volume of each tap as well as the panning it's a really, really, really good sound. You can't get that sound out of an original timeline at all. So really enjoying that. You'll hear it. I think it comes across beautifully in the video, if I do say so myself, that I made for it. So that'll be coming right away. I'm a delay junkie, so I love it. Any thoughts on digital amps being able to reproduce the amp in the room sound? Oh, well, are you talking about something like a Tone Master from Fender? Like, I've long said, I mean, I don't know if this is what you mean or not, but like, I've long said that the main component that I miss with just running a direct rig is the speaker on stage, whether or not we're talking about a tube amp, a solid state amp, a modeling unit running into a power amp and a cabinet on stage. I like moving air as I'm playing with a drummer that's got an acoustic kit. You know, it's like the acoustic drums being there. I don't want to just be direct in here in the in-ears. Sometimes you have to. I mean, a lot of gigs dictate it, but I think it's really cool if you've got a bass amp, a guitar amp, or even if you're sending IRs to a PA system, there's something about the sound of the core unit and everything bleeding into everything and it all blending together. And that's just like what I like to hear with live music. So I don't have a problem with, like, you know, as you can get a good sound. I do it all the time with, you know, I've toured with Five for Fighting for 5 years now or something like that, using a quad cortex into a power amp on stage and sending IRs to the PA. So amp on stage, or amp in the room, as you call it, using some sort of, you know, digital reproduction, it's less the issue than, you know, tubes versus whatever. That's a thing too, because I still love my tube amps, but I don't want to lose the speaker on stage. Can I lose the tube amp on stage? Yeah, I can for certain gigs where it just makes sense because you got to fly with your rig or whatever. You know, and it can be argued that, you know, you could even be like, it's even better, you know, for reasons. I still love my tube amps, but I think that digital does a great job these days, to be honest. You know, my quad cortex captures and stuff, I'll put them up against, you know, so it's terrific, you know. So to have that ability, as long as you're still moving some air on stage with the speaker, it doesn't have to be that loud either, just a little bit, you know. Who would have known Helix would go from a cool 80s band to a well-known effects unit in the 2000s? That's funny. I saw Rush live on Moving Pictures and Farewell to Kings eras, but damned if I can remember who opened for them. Well, it could have very well been Kim Mitchell and Max Webster. You know, Max Webster. Could be, because that happened quite a bit back then. I love Triumph back then too. I haven't really checked them out. Phil X plays with them. Looks like they had a good reunion tour too. That was pretty high profile this year. Really digging the Tone King preamp pedals going direct these days. They're really nice. Anyone's on the fence about these, I highly recommend. Real tube front end, digital back end with amazing IRs. Agreed. The Tone King sounds great. You know, really, really good sound. Especially, you know, you need a sort of a vintagey drive and then a Fendery clean. It's a great option. Yeah, really, really good sound. I have a friend that always gigged with Music Man amps. I think they were 50 or 100 watt. I've got an affinity for those Music Man amps, no matter what. I mean, one of my favorite guitar players and guitar tones from back in the day was Brian Too Loud McLeod, and he made great use of the Music Man amps. And probably the main, him and Eric Clapton. I can't remember like who else played those things, but they always look cool. I always thought they were just cool looking, simple, and yeah. Um, yeah. Hey, oh, dude, Haywire played. Oh no, it wasn't Haywire, but this is awesome. Haywire played in a high school assembly prep rally when I was in grade 10. That's awesome. I loved Haywire. The guitar player was awesome in that band. I was a fan. Would love to meet him again if he's still around. Because I met him once briefly because I snuck backstage at a Haywire gig and then I got kicked out. But I remember going in his dressing room going, "Hey man, you were awesome." And then he looked at me kind of surprised, like, "Who's this kid in here?" And the security got rid of me. That happened. See, I was a fan. But anyway, he was really good. And I remember Dance Desire. That was the song. Oh man, that's some cheesy 80s. But what a solo, right? He was a ripping guitar player. One of my favorites. Along with what's his name, Danny from Honeymoon Suite. Now, the band that played at was Harlequin. I get all these H bands: Honeymoon Suite, Haywire, Harlequin. I get them all mixed up sometimes, but Harlequin played at a high school dance of mine, and I remember thinking, like, isn't this kind of shitty for you guys? I remember them doing, they were great. They had some good tunes, like a few really good hits. Innocence, that was a really good song. What a great refrain, the end of the chorus. Over the line, baby, don't even try. Remember that? Innocence. Great song. Really good Canadian rock. Man, there were some good Canadian rock bands that you guys in America have missed out on. If you want to go back, if you want to like go, there's no good, if you're one of those like, there's no good music around, all my great music was in the 80s, then go back and check out Haywire, Honeymoon Suite, Harlequin. Pull that shit up. And and of course, like we've talked about Nick Gilder, the Queen City Kids. What's the other that I'm missing? Street Heart, of course. I love Street Heart. They were great, man. Kenny Shields. Their cover of Under My Thumb is awesome by the Stones, but they had a lot of great tunes of their own, of course. And of course, out of Street Heart came Too Loud McLeod and what's his name? Fournette, right? Drummer from, is that his name? Drummer from Loverboy? Matt, I think. Anyways, Western Canada, Eastern Canada, bunch of stuff there. Okay. Landau will have the MX on his board in no time then. He's running a Big Sky and Timeline. Interesting. In parallel on a separate parallel. Timeline on a separate parallel board. Yeah, I wonder if he would check this out. I'll hit him up and see if he's interested in trying this one. Maybe after I'm done with it, I'll lend it to him or something. He's around a lot. I see him all the time. One of my favorite guitar players of all time. I think Synergy's working on a solid state power amp with their machine learning tech, the same tech that's in the IR load and pedal head, but without any load box. Yeah, you might be right about that. Not confirming, but yeah. Okay. That is how I mix delay and reverb in my DAW. Yeah, exactly. It's like mixing, doing it in parallel is exactly what you do when you blend in effects in a DAW. Yeah, via sends and effects returns and stuff. Yeah. What else here? Secret preamp mimics the preamp that was in a Maestro Echoplex tape delay. That's cool. I like Echoplex pre's. It seemed to do something cool to the sound for sure. The Clinch was the one that I think it was the first one out. Clinch, the guy in Australia, and he made a really, really nice Echoplex style preamp and a pedal that definitely does a neat thing to the sound. Barely boosts the gain, just a little bit, maybe a few dB, but it's more about this broadening of the sound that is really cool. I don't know how else to describe it. It just sounds bigger with that pedal on. Subtle, but cool. I run the QC through the power station amp section, pretty amp in the room, like. Right on. That's why I use my PT15 on stage. A dry PT15. Got it. Yeah, a dry PT15 is kind of so I did that for a tour where, I don't know if this is what you're doing, Paul, but PT15 into a cabinet, but then you take the IR output and you could send that out to some effects, stereo, whatever, and send that to the house. And in the PA or in in-ears, you could have, like as stereo as you want, and it sounds like a full-blown rack mount guitar rig or something, but it's really simple on stage, just with even like a 112, and then you get feedback and stuff. Do all the IRs. I did it on one tour, and I really gotta say I love my sounds on that tour. It was like I had the PT15 and a 212 cabinet on stage, and then I used the Quad Cortex for all the effects and post effects. Not all. Maybe it was all, like delays and stuff on that tour. I just can't quite remember, but anything that, we were playing Rush and stuff, and I had like stereos going on, and all that was done in the quad, and then IRs added in the quad, and then I sent that to the PA. But on stage, I just had the 212 with my pedals in front of the amp, no time-based or anything or whatever. It was essentially dry, like the amp on stage. One could argue, this is the thing, you could make the argument that actually effects can cloud the ability of your guitar to have that direct connection with the cabinet. I think that there's certain, like Scott Henderson feels this way, the direct connection with no A to D conversion or anything of an effect loop, just guitar, amp, speaker is a better feedback loop than if you put reverb and delay in the same cabinet, and then you're trying to get and I think there might be something to that, Certainly the crowd doesn't care where the effects are added. It doesn't really matter. It could have been added at the mixing desk, for all they know. But it's kind of a cool way to run and to go stereo and to, so you got your mono dry. This is especially if you're using in-ears. For your selfish, whatever approach on stage, you just want to get a little flap your pants. You can feel it, but you're not really hearing it that much because you've got in-ears in. You can add the stereo effects post. You get all that in the in-ears, and then on stage you can get just nice feedback, and then it's doing the job of the center fill and all that. And they're not getting any of the delay and the cool stuff in the first few rows from the cabinet if they're hearing it. But we're talking about compromises here, not running massive rigs on stage, small rigs on stage with massive tones in the PA. That's the thing. Glass Tiger, that was a Canadian band. Too poppy for me too, a little bit. But cool nonetheless. Canadian. Honeymoon Suite were cool. They were more like just a straight up, rock and roll band. Honeymoon Suite with good, AOR style rock tunes. They're still around, playing, doing it. Yeah, really, really good band. We follow each other on Instagram. We do. Nothing But Tubes. Hey, I appreciate that band, Tom. I do. Okay, moving through the chat here. I'm going to move down a little bit. There's a super chat that I've missed. Thanks for the super chats, guys. I appreciate it. 268 people online. Let's see if we can get to 300 before this show's over. It's 1:20. I was late today, so I'll hang till 2 or 2:15 or something. I'll be here for another hour or so. Watching the voltage drop to 112 as the Texas heat takes its toll. Use regulators in your studio or live? No regulators here. The power seems relatively hot here in this building. Live, I really wish I actually had one of those Kikasui things or something like it, but they're expensive. Maybe someday I'll be able to afford something like that. But the ones that you see the real big bands like Guns N' Roses use, and who else has Kikasui? AC/DC. They're these Japanese made sort of power distribution boxes that filter as well as convert. So you could run 240 into them and take out 120 or whatever you want. You could say, I want it at 110 steady, and it'll hold it there no matter what's going in. Pretty cool, but they're like thousands of dollars. So I don't have one. Wish I did, though. That's kind of seems like the industry standard. I think there's some other ones. Furman might have one. These aren't just a power conditioner, they're a regulator and a filter and regulator. Yeah, it seems like a pretty cool idea. I'd love to try one in here because, to be honest, I've thought a lot about noise, and I don't know that much about proper grounding and all that stuff, but there is a lot of bullshit that gets into my guitar signal through the pickups. And I think it's just from power transformers and stuff in the street outside this building. As I get further and further away from the street, like if this wall wasn't here and I was able to go another 20 feet that way, it's markedly quieter. Further away from these, the street where there's transformers. So, I do want to bring this up. I'll be a little bit more official about it next week, but this amplifier I am going to sell, I think. So if anybody's interested, my email is pretty easy to find. Folks know what it is, but I've got a Y mail, so you could email me there, PeteThorn@ymail.com. And I'm still thinking about a price, but just give me an interest level on this if anybody's interested in it. So what it is it's a hand-wired amp, hand-wired Headroom 100. Could easily be put back to be a stock Headroom 100 if that's what somebody wanted, which is basically kind of a early 70s spec, kind of slightly stiffer filtering than the late 60s, I think. That could be changed too, but really beautiful on the inside, hand wired, Germino, they're known for killer Marshall clones. And then I had Dave Friedman do all the Jose stuff. So it's got, these two knobs right here are now the volume 1 and volume 2 for the different channels. Normally you'd have the 4 inputs, the different channels, volume 1, volume 2. That's what these are right now. And then it's just off frame there, but there's another knob here. That's the Jose gain. You can hear me push pull it. That's for the Jose gain boost in front. And these are internally linked, so you can blend volume 1 and volume 2 at any level you want. And then these two volumes here are in the master volumes. You get both. So you get a pre-EQ master or the post-EQ master, and you can switch between them and pick which one you want to use, which is really nice because they do sound kind of different. And then there's also the saturation circuit in this amp that you can push-pull to turn the sat on. So there's two push-pulls here. One's to switch between the masters, and one is to turn on the sat. That'll make it more metal. And then you got your standard presence, mid, treble bass controls. That's it. 100 watt Headroom 100. So let me know, because I'm gonna sell that. Yeah, and it's a great version of a Jose amp, but I want to get something else for something else, because I got a lot of sort of redundant stuff here. So if anybody's interested, email me at the aforementioned email, and I'll come up with a price that is totally reasonable for what it is. Let's call it $3K. First $3K takes it. The $3K is reasonable because of what I paid for that amp, which it would be worth more than that for the amp. I bought it secondhand in its perfect condition. There's one little mark on it here. There's a little line on the front. It's pristine, basically. It's just two little marks on it here in the Tolex. But I bought it from a store in Nashville. A guy had it consigned. And then I had all those mods done to it. So it's the full-blown Jose mods and everything like that. So $3K, that's what I think is reasonable. You guys let me know if you're down. If anybody's interested. Okay. Yeah, first email, just like Dave did in his sale, the Tone King. If the first one that's serious, I'll email that one back first. And if somebody's real serious about it, it'll go to that person. And then if that were to fall through, I'd pick the next email. Let's see if there's some interest. There's by the way, Neural DSP, I put captures of that on there. If you got a quad cortex and you want to go play through it, you can hear what it sounds like. Yeah. Check out the band Took as they cover the classic Canadian bands from that era. Dude, I did a gig with Took. 2017, I filled in for Corey, their main guitar player. Started the band. He's a buddy of mine. In outside Winnipeg. Did you hear that? Outside Winnipeg. It just happened. Yeah, no, those guys are all my friends. I've known Brent, the drummer, or sometimes he's the bass player. Depends on. Yeah, he's an amazing musician. He just had a street named after him in Winnipeg, Brent Fitz. Brent Fitz Way, because he's such an ambassador for Winnipeg. So they actually named a city street after him. It's awesome. There was a whole ceremony. I'm very proud of him. He's a great guy. But I've known him. He's a year younger than I am, maybe. I think he was 17 or something when I met him. He was playing in a band called Seventh Heaven from Winnipeg, and awesome guy and musician, and great energy. Talk about a positive guy that's just kind of like, unfortunately, there was a minute where it didn't end up getting that close, but there was a minute where the guitar chair in Slash's band was open. It looked like I was maybe gonna get involved in that. That didn't end up happening, unfortunately. It didn't really. I'm not going to say like, oh, I was right there and then it didn't happen. That didn't happen. But I did. I was talking to Brent and Todd, and I know all those guys from that period about it, and Miles Kennedy. We all went out for dinner, and we all went out and had sushi and stuff like that. But then that all fell. It just fell apart for a couple different reasons we won't get into. But never any hard feelings or anything like that. I love those guys. They're super cool dudes. So, yeah. Okay, what else? I watched Duran rehearse 8 feet in front of me at the Castle of Edinburgh on New Year's Eve. That's cool, Ben Tom. Awesome. I'm building a new board and pulled my original timeline for Free the Tone Future Factory. That's cool. Also have a Ventress reverb along with H9. Mistake? Still putting it together. Oh, I mean, you've got top shelf stuff, It's like, I don't think it's a mistake. I don't know. I've never directly compared the Free the Tone. They've got great reputation. I've never compared them, with what this thing does. You'll hear some of the sounds. I mean, I can't hit all of them, but I did make a nice, sort of just slightly generic but functional lead sound using delay and reverb in this, and you'll hear that in my video. Probably the real standout tone is the drum multi-tap kind of sound. It sounds lovely, I think, that I did in one part. And then I used just the reverb for a couple parts. I used some lo-fi and what was it like? It was lo-fi and oil can, maybe, algorithms at the same time, because once again, the cool thing about this is you can run different delay engines on each side. It sounds like you got 2 different delays in the right and left channel, completely different style of delays. It's pretty cool to be able to do, I think. Yeah. I sure wish Synergy could do a Roland Jazz chorus module. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it's possible to do a full-on solid state. I mean, you'd have there's a shared tube in the front end of those Synergy preamps no matter what. Like the input stage is tube. So you might be able to do something close. Just solid state, real clean after that initial tube gain. Who knows? Maybe it sounds better than a jazz chorus, But yeah, just I agree. It'd be cool to have a real clean, solid state, that you could add a chorus to or whatever. That'd be neat. It'd be a different sound. Yeah. Okay, what else here? Here's a super chat. I have Charvel Sandemus made in Japan HSS. The JB is too hunky. They are that. I'm considering the Duncan Custom. Any recommendations? I play classic and hard rock. Custom's nice. It's warmer with a squishier bottom end. Honky. Part of me wonders if you might like a custom, because custom's still going to have lots of mids. I wonder if you just might like a more like big, bold Duncan Custom. I know it's ceramic, but maybe, or maybe a Custom 5. JB's going to be more mids. Let me look right now. A Custom 5 is kind of a cool, maybe a Custom or Custom 5. Custom. They're soft on the top end. Custom 5 Seymour. I mean, I think it's a 13K affair, which is less than a JB. Custom 5, scoop mids, even bass and treble, high output. Let's see. Honky, I think of, the mid-range. And so Seymour Duncan themselves is saying if a 59 model bridge was twice as loud, it would be a Custom 5. Scoop mids, even bass and treble, and high output. So does that sound like something that might be, let me see here what they're 14.1K. I think a JB is like, let me see what a JB is. Position bridge. So JB is 16.6. A little hotter. I don't know if they're different. I mean, they should be. 16.6, a little hotter. What did I say the Custom was? Getting lost here. I forget sometimes. The Duncan Custom. There we go. 14 point. Yeah, that's substantially different. That's right. 14 versus 16. I think a Custom or Custom. I think a Custom. I think a Custom or Custom 5 is what I'm trying to say. Might be better for you than the Custom. But I don't know. I'm only if you want that softer top end, a little squishy bottom end with full mids, but not honky, yeah, Custom. If you want kind of just good, loud, crunchy, hard rock with the two different flavors, I'm gonna guess here. I think a Duncan Custom is more full range, full like bass, some nice crunchy treble, sort of full range. And then I'm gonna guess that a Custom 5 has a little bit. I always hear a little bit more of this Alnico 5 sort of like treble. You know what I mean? Like a super distortion has that big flat, full range distortion sound to me. And then anytime you go Alnico 5 and higher output, when you start to wind real hot, it gets into like a JP, the honky thing, because it kicks down into the mids because of the high wind. But 14K wind is going to be a little more just treble, with that. So take that all into account. Maybe listen to some samples online. Yeah. So we didn't talk about this at all. Saw a clip of Blackmore playing with Deep Purple. I have mixed feelings about it. Hey, at the end of the day, I'm glad the guy got up and just jammed with him. It seemed very off the cuff and like it just came together in like 48 hours or something. I don't know if that's true, but that's what it seemed like. It was just nice to see a kind of notoriously kind of ornery guy get up and seemingly have fun with his bandmates, and that's the main thing. Alex Lifeson could tell you. I mean, they worked for a year and a half towards getting to the level where they are now. I don't think Richie worked for a year and a half to get up and play Smoke on the Water. So, can we expect that he was like super top form? I mean, he didn't sound awful. He just played really simple. But who cares? To me, I was like, for me, it was great to see him just get up and do it. And they were obviously all moved, I think, and Ian and it's it was great to see them do it. The fact of the matter is, you still got Roger and the two Ians and Richie up there, and Don Airy, who's a rock legend in his own right. No John Lord anymore, of course, but it was cool, to see that all go down. Yeah. I just went down the Synergy Syn 2 Fryat 290 rabbit hole. Maybe the new Friedman IR load will be worth option instead of 292. Yeah, I think so. I think you'll think so too when you hear it. It's pretty great, man. I got to say, it's something special, and it's a good collaborative effort right now. The way the product was developed, I mean, it was the ideas were Friedman and Mines, and then this cat Leo that is designer there, who's really brilliant, went and just ran with it and came up with all kinds of cool stuff on his own to really supercharge it. So it's like the thing there was a core framework of ideas that were like, look, nothing on the market does all this and puts it together in one box. So this is what we want. And then he went, okay. And then, the machine learning, we just wanted a great sounding power amp. The machine learning thing, that's all his idea. And, so it was like, what's this thing you're developing? Like, I thought it was just going to be more like a matrix or something, like the power amp that's in it. And so the ability to have a transparent power amp that is, I think it's as good as any, the ability of the power station to be transparent. For example, the power station's interesting, the Fryat, because it's got a reactive load, of course, and then it's got a tube power amp that is meant to be kind of clean and high power. Anytime you've got a tube power amp, though, you're going to have an impedance curve that's going to react with the cabinet. So the way Stevie did it is pretty cool. He combined a reactive load that's kind of subtle on both ends, the treble and the bass, because there's this rise at both ends, peaks. It's sort of one's a peak and the other one's a rise. And the way that he did the load in it, if you set the switches in the middle, so it's kind of it's doing a reactive load thing, but not as dramatic as some others on the market. But because you're combining it with that tube power amp, that's just by the nature of a tube power amp. It's got to have some of the same stuff. It kind of works in a cumulative way to get you very, very, very close to the same sound as your amp when it's just plugged right into the cabinet. So that's the way Stevie did it, and it's cool. It's very cool. And there's some simple ways, I'm looking at it right now, the presence and the depth, and then the ability to flatten out the load or make it more dramatic. You can do that. Some simple ways to voice that power amp. Cool. And it's a mono power amp. It's been a great device. I mean, a good solid asset around here. This is a very different thing we're talking about with the IR load, because you're able to do that kind of flat tube power, or flat, because flat, it feels kind of like, when you plug into a solid state power amp, it's like the same. You can get the sound really the same as when your amp's plugged in the cabinet. It doesn't feel the same though. And so with ours, in the kind of flat power amp mode, you can add reactance to it to make it feel better, and then it feels more like you're plugged right into the cabinet, like with an amp, and it's just great. And I've found my favorite setting on it, where it's like, okay, this is very transparent right here, or I can go back and forth. This is how we test it. We do it head going right into cabinet, put it on a switcher in a certain way that then you can switch the load box in. So now it's getting loaded down and reamped through the same cabinet. Boom, boom, boom. We just go back and forth and can listen. So through doing that, I've been able to find my favorite sounds and the very transparent kind of sounds. So that's great. But the great thing about the machine learning power amp is you also have the ability to enhance beyond that. So I've discovered, for example, that it's actually possible to, the great sound of your amp loaded down, you can actually make it sound better, like enhanced beyond just being neutral and at any volume. That was always the goal with any load box to me, was to be able to load reamp, to just get the same sound, as close as you can get to the same sound as the amp plugged into the cabinet, but you want to get it at any volume and maybe be able to add effects, right? That was always like, oh, that's a great load reamp if you can do that. This thing can do that in spades, but also sound better. So that's what I think. And that's where we've really got something. And then it'll function in these numerous different ways, where you can also just use it as a power amp with, stereo power amp with your preamps, or, your Sin 2, you can use it in that mode as well. And make it sound like I say, totally pure if you want, or you want a Marshall power amp, you want a, diesel power amp, you can get there. So it's really exciting, actually. So I think once people get it and they start to get their heads around it and integrate it in rigs, the number one use for the thing, and I've been very adamant about this all along and not to lose sight of it. So like there was a feature implemented this week because I felt like we were getting away from this in a certain way. And I was like, no, we have to have this so that it fills the primary goal. What is the IR Load Plus meant for? To load a tube amp and reamp it in stereo if you wish, add effects if you wish, at any volume, plus send IRs to either a PA or a recording system. That's the core use for this thing in my mind. And then it also does a bunch of other stuff, like just functions as a stereo power amp for modelers, for instance, if you want, So, yeah. And believe me, the finished thing it's impressive. Yeah, it's really impressive. So, okay. I'm way back in the chat now because I've been gabbing forever, but it's good info. I mean, I think I'm not just talking trash here. This is the reality. You'll see. That video you made with Tim and Michael was awesome. Highly recommend it to everyone. YouTube is easy. It's easy to find. Why am I spacing on Michael's last name right? Michael Thompson. Sorry. Goddamn mind. Yeah, I loved making that video. And it was really fun to go there and visit him in his studio. And then, all take turns cutting a solo over that piece of music using his guitar. That was the main thing, because like his guitar was really high action, which you can see me comment on in the video. Yeah. Fryat Power Station is pretty much a magic box for tube amps. I agree. It's been great. It's a great unit. Could play a stadium or bedroom. Exactly. It's really good at what it does. It has been, a solid piece of gear, 100%. Can you possibly decide to gift a diehard fan who's not really down on his luck but has a wife? Gift it to a diehard fan, but has a wife. I think that's Ian making a joke about the Germino. Yeah. Joel Plaskett. I don't know Joel Plaskett. Somebody's asking if anybody knows a Joel Plaskett. I do not. Yeah. Let's see. What else? Noise gate, rack unit suggestions, Hush, Decimator. I've never had great luck with anything, to be honest. The Decimator seems like it's good in theory. I always find that they dull high end in a way that I can't get with. I like the Hush idea, which is kind of a downward expansion sort of thing. It's like when you're not playing, it does this. It's not like a hard gate. It's more like it's a high end thing that it sort of seems to mitigate just the top end where the hiss is and the noise. And then there's usually a gate component and then the Hush component, which the Hush only works on certain frequencies, I think, right? And the Decimator sort of maybe incorporates all that stuff. Let's see, I got a reminder there to do something. I got to change that. That's cool. Yeah. Anyways, I don't have a lot of great recommendations. I'll use the gate. The gate that I use sometimes because I run into trouble at certain gigs and it's a Band-Aid is the MXR Smart Gate. And it's generally like the noise coming out of a pedal board or going into the front of a high gain amp is what, or maybe it's just pickup noise in certain rooms, where you get in certain rooms and the single coil noise is really bad, or because there's like stuff under the stage or power transformers, whatever the heck it is. So sometimes I'll use a Carriot generator in my road case, a Hush Smart Gate, not a Hush, sorry, MXR Smart Gate. And I run it on the kind of minimum settings so that, when my volume's up on my guitar, it's still gating, but the second I play, it opens up, but it's just to make the hiss and any kind of stuff getting into the pickups, go lower. And other than that, I don't know. I don't just Gates kind of, I hear them work all the time and I don't like them. I don't like them when I hear them in other people's rigs, to be honest. There's certain guitar players where I can hear the gate opening and closing as they're playing quiet. And it really bothers me. So it's like, I know it's not just me. Like, well, that guy's a great guitar player, but I can hear the gate working. So it's not just me not setting mine right. They're always a compromise. So I'd rather just have the noise most of the time, you know? Yeah. Looking to upgrade pickups on a Strat, hum single hum, looking at Arcanes and experience. Yeah, I've had Arcanes. My they're good actually. My Scala guitar, Leo Scala build. It's in here somewhere. I don't know where it is, but it's in here somewhere. Oh, it's back there against the couch. Not that that's neither here nor there. You can't even see it. It's a Les Paul style guitar that came with Arcanes. I think they were Alnico 2 PAF style Arcanes. And then Leo's like, oh, I'm making my own now. You got to hear them. They're great. And he put in some sort of low whine PFs in there. Cool too. I liked them both, to be honest. I like the Arcanes too. I thought they were both good sounds. So, I think they got a pretty good reputation. That's the only guitar I've had Arcanes in. There's probably some videos of me playing it back with Classic Rock Show when I had the old pickups in it. I used to take it over there on tour. Yeah, I think so. Maybe one of the first tours, I think. Or did I have I don't even know. But anyways, blah, 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 blah. What else? Does Pete's Germino have a loop? No. Could get one if you wanted. That would be something that I could ask Friedman to do. I'd just have to charge for the mod, whatever he would charge. He could put some sort of no loss loop in there, like the Metro style loop or something. If that was something that somebody wanted, that'd be easy actually for me to make happen. Is just tack it on to the price, probably be another, what's a loop cost? $400 or $500 or something to put in. Yeah. When did the Viasatch tour end? It was end of May, very beginning of June. We were done, and then just a few days later, Steve had to go and start the Beat tour over in Europe. So, but yeah, we did 2 great months last year, 2 great months this year, Europe and the US, about 80 shows I think we played in total. So, yeah. Yeah. Okay. With it being red, I don't know how I could sneak it in the house. Yeah, it is pretty red. It's cool though. Yeah. Okay. What else? Joe Bonamassa has a Kikisui, I think. Yeah, I believe he does. I think he used them as well. Yeah. What is Joe using it for? It just regulates the power going to your amps so that, like, you can do different things with it. So one of the things it does is transform voltages. So say you're going to Europe and you got an amp that's set up for, like a modern, a PT100 or whatever. They don't have a voltage selector. So you need to use a step transformer on them. And instead of that, with a Kikisui, you could have 240 coming into it and tell it to spit out 120. I'm going to eat some more of the sourdough right now. It's just really good. I'll be honest, it's the first time I've gotten the bread at Boy and the Bear, because I was always like, boring. It's just jam and butter and toast. So I always get like the avocado toast or something. But the butter is salted and it's exceptional. And I've toasted it. It's just like really good. So I'm glad I took the chance today. It's delicious. So good. Sometimes that's all you want. Just a little jam on toast. Sorry, I'm eating right into the microphone. It's got compression on it too, so I'm sure it sounds exceptional. What a jerk. I want to get an original 5150, as the original SLR are unreachable. Original 5150 are great. I bought one back in the day. It was so early on that they still were shipping Phillips tubes in them. The PV branded real US 6L6 is the one that I got, which failed in spectacular fashion a couple years after I got it, but they were great for a while. Yeah, took out some resistors and stuff on the board when my tubes went south, actually. Blew a fuse and then some burn components. It was a mess. But I got it fixed up and then it was good as new, except it had, the whatever Chinese tubes or whatever, and it wasn't quite the same. Yeah. What else? What else are we talking about here? Custom 5 is pretty good here. Is pretty good too, rather, that says. Another vote for the Custom 5. I had a Custom 5 in a Les Paul for a while. I don't really remember what it sounded like, but I was fine with it and used it for a while. Yeah. Hope you're well. Powered up my pedal board about a week ago for the first time in ages. Had to reverse engineer it to work out how I'd wired it. That happens to me sometimes where I'm like, how do I work this rig? Yeah. Just get a Thornbucker. Well, Thornbuckers are great, but they're not as high output as this fellow wants, I don't think. The highest output one, they're really they're like a high whine PAF, they don't get into the the more loud rock pickup territory. It's like Duncan said, if a 59 weren't twice as loud, you basically got a 14K, as opposed to 8 to 9. So it's substantially louder. It's just going to be barkier and louder, more going into the front of the amp. So Thornbuckers are in that, in the lower whine. It's a high whine for a PAF. They're 8.7 or 8 or 9 for the A2 version, 8.7 for the A4 version. But yeah, if JB's honky, consider Sir Aldrich. Yeah, they somehow do avoid that. I don't know what I'd have to listen to an Aldrich next to a like an HSS Plus as well, or SSH Plus. I always mix that up. SSH Plus versus Aldrich, or is it HSS or SSH? Whatever, I forget the names. I wish they had different names, to be honest. That's why Thornbucker's easy, right? All those like SSV, SFO. I don't like those names, to be honest, because I know that it stands for single screw vintage or single screw hot, but I get them confused with the pickup designations on guitars. HSS, HH. Is it SSH or is it HSS? I just get them mixed up. So, yeah. And I like pickups with names because it's kind of fun. It's a little more like, I don't know, like, the JB, I don't know, it's just got the Duncan Custom. It has like they're basic ass names, I guess. It's nothing exciting, but there's something about them where it conjures up more of a SSV, SSH. It's a minor criticism of my friends at Sir that they should update those names and just call them something else, I don't know. The only problem is there's a lot of different, like the DSV, what's that? Double screw vintage. So it's at two screw coils, which is kind of like an interesting, that was the Alan Holdsworth thing. He liked the real round sound. For whatever reason, a slug coil makes sharper attack. The round, the screw coil is a rounder attack. So when you got two screw coils, it kind of smooth sounding. Interesting. I've never played with those pickups. So I recently saw an Alan Holdsworth Ibanez in Japan. That was kind of like, you remember them, the red ones that Ibanez came out with, signature model. It was maybe just after he did the Charvels, and then maybe Ibanez talked him into a signature deal or something. But those guitars are cool. Like, they're cool looking. So red with black pickguard. Yeah. 155. I'm going to hang another 10 minutes or so, guys, and then I'm going to split. Yeah. Thumbs up for the Thornbucker. Hey, I love him. If I had to recommend one, it'd just be probably the Thornbucker Plus, which is the 8.7 kind of high whine PAF, solid pickup, hard to go wrong. Just sounds good. Yeah. Thornbucker 2 is great too. It's just that slightly, A2, a little more rolled off top end. Nice, if you play high gain, you want a nice singing, sustaining up the high string singing tone. Very nice. The 8.7K A4 is just really balanced. Really, really balanced for chords and stuff. Clarity. Yeah. Yeah. This fellow's saying for classic rock, I'd try more PAF output A5 like Thornbucker. Thornbucker's actually not A5. The only one that is the neck model. The standard Thornbucker neck is an A5 low wind, kind of T-toppy really. I mean, in what it is, it's like a 60s spec sort of in many ways. Gibson pickup, which I love. I love those pickups. Like a patent number T-top, something like that. It'd be fun to hear an A5 in a Thornbucker, though. Scott Henderson did that, by the way. I do believe he took a Thornbucker and he put an A5 in it, and he loves it, I think. So, yeah. Yeah, Richie's 80 something. Have fun and play some music. Totally. Yeah, see him get up and play. Awesome. I think it's terrific. So, good vibes. I'm going to move down in the bottom of the chat and just kind of get there because I'm way back. Yeah. Well, not way back, but I was pretty far back. I was 10 minutes back at least. Put your effects loop money toward a power station. Great loop plus all the benefits. Don't mess with this style amp. Which style amp? Which one? Which one are you talking about? Have you ever played a Helios? A little bit, and I like those amps. I mean, I think it's kind of a little bit more my speed in the modded Marshall thing as opposed to it's a little closer to a Marshall, which I like. So yeah, Thornbucker plus clean boost. Yeah, I mean that's kind of to be honest, I mean that is a good way to go because that's the whole point of the Thornbucker was always like, I appreciate high output pickups now a little more than I did when we did the Thornbucker. I know they're good for a thing. That's why I have a SSH Plus in my custom model with the Floyd and stuff. But it still paints me into a corner. Like I won't pick up that guitar to play certain things. I'll pick up, this guitar has been my main squeeze this year. This thing, which is standard Thornbucker set, right? Look at how pretty that guitar is. Come on. The red back and everything, kind of natural back, and the binding and the zebras. I love this thing. So that's a standard Thornbucker plus in the bridge, and then the Thornbucker in the neck. And it's just this guitar will do just about anything. And yes, you could just hit your amp with a clean boost, and then you haven't painted yourself into a corner with mids. The and close down the high end, with the high output thing, because there ain't no free lunch. The hotter you wind up pick up, the less high end they have, generally speaking. So you can do sort of tricks to mitigate that, but generally speaking, you're cutting your top end. So yeah, I just set that for an hour from now. Cool. Okay. What else? The Steve Vai Evolution pickup seemed really sharp and high end. I don't have a handle on that. Steve gets a lot of sounds out of his guitars. Having stood on stage beside him for 80 shows, I can tell you he's got it all covered over there with a different, with his particular rig. One thing about his signature model and his amps that I noticed is that signature model preamp, I should say. So he uses the Synergy preamp, and he's got his Vai, one signature, the green one. What's it called? I'm not 100% sure what it's called, but the preamp, the Vai preamp module for Synergy, the gain sound is really cool. It's his sort of thing, compressed mids, really nice lead voice, great sounding, kind of smooth around the edges. The clean is really bright and spanky if you want it to be. With the bright on, I mean, it's got a super scoop kind of thing going on. Sounds like almost hi-fi in a really great, still warm way, like a tubey way. So that's really cool. And then he also uses some of the Bassman modules for the Bassman, synergy modules for, I guess, slightly different clean sounds, or maybe he's using them for semi-dirty or something. I'm not even sure, but he's got a Bassman in there as well. And then with the pickup choices on his guitars, he can get a ton of sounds, with the split positions and stuff like that. So it doesn't mean, with his pickups, I guess what I'm getting at is that module of his drastically different from the lead channel to the clean channel. So maybe he likes those real hi-fi pickups for the super spanky, kind of like the clean stuff, and then to be able to hit the bridge humbucker and go to that, it's got almost a darkness to it in a great, lovely way, vocal sounding on the distortion sound. It's probably not bad to have a pickup with a fair amount of, like you say, sharpness or whatever, because of, obviously his rig is all a sum of the parts, it's a recipe. So yeah. Gibson Dirty Fingers is 2-screw. I don't remember that. I'd have to go look. I always thought it was like kind of their version of a super distortion, kind of a ceramic magnet, loud ass wind. But I seem to remember a screw and slug coil. I'd have to go look. Yeah, I could be wrong. You might be correct, but I'm just not sure. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. First two Van Halen albums always hold a special place in my heart. Me too, man. I can't pick a best. No, I vacillate. I mean, I like them both, There's something I agree with Dave Friedman on this. We don't always agree on everything, but we agree on a lot. And I agree that the sound on it is really exceptional. Of Van Halen 2. I love the sound of that record. It's just got this great warm, it's kind of like those early Canadian records I was talking about earlier. Like, the Nick Gilder, and there's just a warmth to Van Halen 2 where it's real clear. It doesn't have too much reverb and all. Like by the next record, I'm kind of hearing it sounds a little washed out, like Women and Children First. There's not the power and the punch in the guitar that there is on the first two albums. If the tone on Women and Children First was that, if that was the first Van Halen album, I don't think we'd talk about Ed's tone as much. It's cool. I mean, there's some great tone on there too. It's cool, but it's a little, it sounds like a lot of reverb to me on that record. Does anybody agree with that? Like, it's like, it doesn't quite have the punch, and it's a little washy sounding, that album. Yeah. I've always thought that. And then by fair warning, we're getting back to form, I think, and it's its own thing in a cool way, totally awesome. But is it the Legacy? Is it called the Legacy, the Synergy module? Could be. I'm not sure. I have one right here. I should just look. It might not even say the name on it, but it might. It just has Steve's signature. Let's see. It's green. Synergy signature. Vai. It doesn't say Legacy. Maybe it's just a Steve Vai signature. Each channel has a, let's see, gain, bright, and boost. Yeah, and then, what's the other channel say? God, my eyes, man. It's a little dark in here. I've got it dark because of the light. I can't really read the fine print underneath these. Too small for me. It's bright and something else on channel 1. Bright and fat, maybe, on channel 1. And then bright and boost on channel 2. I want to plug this in again and try it. Maybe I'll do that today. It's been a minute, so I'd love to play through it and listen to it for a minute. I remember really liking it and thinking, well, that's a great, like one of the things about it is it really sounds different than all the other modules. So, yeah. Okay. What else? He sounded like he was going towards Less Gain. You think on Women and Children First? I sort of hear Less Gain on Van Halen too. I heard Women and Children First as like sort of almost like a not as good version of Van Halen 1. Maybe I'm wrong. I should go back and listen. But I just remember a lot of reverb. Yeah. Yeah. Fair Warning is my favorite Studio Brown sound. It's pretty great. The Fair Warning tone is that darker. It just sounds really cool. It's like they got nuts for days, and it's just powerful and definitely darker. When you go and you listen to the sound on Fair Warning versus Van Halen 1, it's like that's why when we talk about Van Halen guitar sound, it's like, well, which, because album to album, there's pretty big varieties, and could be a lot of factors there involved in the sound. Which pickup did he use? Well, when, with Whit, for what? Because it's like there's such huge variation there. His hands, of course, never changed, so that's where there's a similarity in the tone, because it's like that's the hands are the tone thing. Actual guitar, the sort of the filter, the EQ, and everything that's going on with the whatever bits and pieces were involved changed a lot, though, I think, in the sense of speakers, pickups, probably the way cabinets were mic'd and stuff, Light Up the Sky is a track I can never get tired of hearing. I know it's unlike any other rock song, right? Honestly, like it's like, it's just, it's got a meanness to it that's like to that riff. I don't know how else to describe it. It's kind of like Burn by Deep Purple. I mean, that's clearly the riff. Right? It's kind of like there's this, it's real similar. It's not the same at all, but there's a similarity in the stylistic nature of the riff and the darkness of the when you're playing there down around the third fret and doing that, it's not bluesy. It's interesting. It's like harder, like with the something about the A over G takes it out of blues, that whole thing was so cool, and then, Burn, right? It's kind of the same tempo. And it's that same, but that is really progressive sounding and made it, and then the chords in the B section is super not blues, right? I guess it's not really the B section, it's the chorus, isn't it? But we call it the B. It's so unique and progressive sounding. That's where when people are like, oh, Van Halen, they were just this party band or whatever, I'm like, oh, shut up. Have you ever heard Light Up the Sky and the chord changes and the way it evolves and then builds back to the solo, which is so dark, and then oh man, it's like such a unique hard rock song. There's nothing like it. Distinctly, particularly Van Halen in such a beautiful way, really sophisticated. So yeah. I always get it mixed up because of the way that I listen to music, but Light Up the Sky was not the first song, right? The first song is You're No Good, right? Which is awesome. But the track listing, if we look at the track listing of Van Halen 2, this is what was always confusing to me because I always thought Light Up the Sky was like, should have been the first song. The way the album is sequenced. Yeah, You're No Good. It's nobody ever talks about this, but what an odd way to start the record. Light Up the Sky should be the first song into Spanish Fly, into DOA. It's almost like side 2 should be side 1. I really don't. Dance the Night Away could be the third song too. It's an oddly sequenced record, and Ted Templeman used to take great pride in sequencing the albums, so I always wondered about this one because it just doesn't make sense to me, starting with that fade in on You're No Good, and then it's kind of a You're No Good should be like maybe the third song or fourth or fifth or deep into a record, not an opening track, but it's like, here we are. It's like Light Up the Sky is an exceptional. Does anybody agree with that? I used to get confused. I think because I had it on cassette. That's what it was. Now that I think about it, in my car, I used to listen to it driving. I had it on cassette, and I was always like, "Oh yeah, this is great." And I thought side 2 was side 1. Like I'd get them mixed up and be like, "Oh yeah, Light Up the Sky." Okay, now we'll flip it over, and then You're No Good seemed like side 2. So, okay, that's enough about that. Sorry, harping on and on and on and on, but weird one. But the Jamino amp, I wouldn't put a loop. I agree, but if somebody was going to buy it, they wanted one, could do it. That's why there's no loop in it, because I don't particularly like them in anything that's remotely like a plexi, even if it's got a gain boost in the front end. If it's sort of a 4-hole plexi, even with a mod, I don't really want a loop in it. Because I always want the option of running the plexi. Like that was one thing about this amp I wanted to be able to do, was make sure I could still defeat the gain boost, turn the master all the way up, and then run it basically like a plexi if I wanted to. So, yeah. Listen to his tone on DOA. Yeah, DOA that's just exceptional Marshall raw tone. And that's the thing. We can talk about Eddie's sound, Van Halen 1 and and load box, or I should say load resistor and reamping and all this stuff, but DOA is like kind of, that's all you ever really want. For the most part, if you can have that sound, then right. And so that's where all the talk about like that goes down that rabbit hole of, did he pull 2 tubes or whatever, or did he do this, did he do that? It's like, yeah, but DOA, just a healthy Marshall that sounds like a Variac SL68 kind of on 10, and just great aggressive playing in an amp in a room. It's not that much, it sounds like that's what they sound like, and just play good, use your hands right. Yeah. Sound on Women and Children First wasn't as tight. Well, that's part of the reverby thing I hear, the wash, it just sounds. Yeah, that's interesting. Ben Thomas is definitely my favorite album. Not mine. Great though. I mean, awesome. But I rank it kind of with Diver Down, to be honest. For me, Diver Down is like nobody's favorite Van Halen album, but let's just say it's got Hang 'Em High and Secrets, and some great, like, amazing tracks on it. So they're a funny band that way. There's a super chat there from Pazul Pitch. Great to have you here. Thank you very much. And one more. Celestion's doing a reissue of the 55 hertz black back. Yep. Had a 1978 Marshall cab with those in, my favorite speakers. What's your favorite Celestion? Well, I like those 55 hertz original. I've got a 55 hertz 1973 greenback in one of my cabinets. It's cool. And I really like the 55 hertz speakers. I think they're great. I gotta say, I think the lead cone is sort of more my deal, the 75 hertz. So it seems like they're probably leading up to that, like a release of that, which who knows how different it'll be than a regular greenback. While we're on the topic though of Celestion and old greenbacks and blackbacks and stuff, I gotta say I downloaded the new 69 Celestion IRs. So it's like a 1969 greenback G12M 75 hertz. They're great. It's really, really good sounding impulse responses. As a matter of fact, I loaded them. I bought them, and then I loaded them in the IR load. Just one of them. I loaded the high gain all 1969 greenback 412 IR in the IR load to just check out and stuff. And I think it's wonderful. They're just really cool. They're definitely different than the regular Celestion greenback IRs. They're a little warmer, it's got a great sort of nice mid-range presence and a little bit more rolled off on the top end. So whereas with the regular greenback IRs from Celestion, I would gravitate usually towards the dark 57, which sounded more like they have one called Balance, one called Dark, one called Dark 2, which is even more dark. The dark one always sounds like Balance to me. The balanced one always sounds a little edgy these days. Well, with this, the 69 version of the speaker, the balanced one sounds perfect to me. Which, then I think that just translates to their IR blends and mixes so nicely And so I'm really quite enjoying those. If you give Celestion some props there. The Celestion IRs are always some of my favorites because they sound so much like my cabinets when I just put a microphone in front of them. I've got the ability here and the experience of on a routine basis, being able to mic a great old cab in the other room, listen to that sound here. And when I pull up the Celestions, it sounds like very similar to that. Like I just moved the mic on my cabinet a little bit or something. As opposed to some others that are also great, Ownhammer, York, but they always sound a little more produced to me in some way, and a little less like just like the raw mic on the speaker thing that I think Celestion does so well. I don't know why, but I can trust the Celestion sound that it's like, their IR sounds. They'll translate in a mix, and I can get in there, and then if I need to EQ or whatever, I can do that stuff, and it acts like the mic on the speaker that I'm used to, if that makes sense. So no hype, in other words, going on in kind of a cool way. So yeah. Light Up the Skies first song on side 2. Yeah, and I remember now why I used to get them mixed up, and it's because of the cassette. I remember I still have that cassette somewhere in a box probably, but I had it on a cassette, and I used to just think that was side 1. And then you look at it one day, I seem to remember, going, wait a minute, it says side 2. That's so weird. And then I'd listen to You're No Good, and it never made sense to me that would be the first song. Now, it's an amazing cover, and just energy-wise, it's slow and it's so powerful, but it's one of Eddie's greatest guitar solos, obviously. You're No Good is unbelievable. Yeah. Yeah. The Mighty Van Halen podcast just talked about that. Really? I swear to God, I don't know that they did, but I thought the same. But yeah, You're No Good is the opener. I guess they opened their live show with Light Up the Sky. They did, yeah. Van Halen 2 tour. There's videos of that where they come out playing Light Up the Sky. Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Start of that song's amazing. It's so cool. The bass and the guitar going opposite to one another. It's amazing. Amazing. For those that don't know, that's what happens, right? The bass, the bass goes up and the guitar goes down on the do 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 with the riff, right? It's like they're going opposite to one another. It's so fun and funny. Yeah. Intro to Women in Love was a masterpiece. Truly gorgeous. The tapping, just beautiful, right? I mean, just come on. Even just the beauty of that's Eddie's, he wrote these gorgeous little things that were like, it's so beautiful in the same way that the beginning of hear about it later, it's like these gorgeous little bits that he would come up with. Spanish Fly, the gorgeous nylon string guitar parts, or even just the chords at the beginning of the electric part of Little Guitars, Sorry, I didn't mean Spanish Fly. I meant Little Guitars. But Spanish Fly is brilliant too. Spanish Fly is brilliant too, the chords. I mean, it's absolutely gorgeous. I get yeah, it's so cool. Start of that song is amazing. Yeah, I mean, start of all these, this is what we love. It was just brilliant. Brilliant. Yeah. The intro to Women in Love sounds like California. 100%. It really does. The way that Van Halen could evoke that feeling is amazing, right? Through just, I totally know what you mean. I feel the same way. It was magic when we were kids. I mean, me growing up in cold Edmonton and hearing that stuff, that vibe of that certain thing of hard rock and California. I'll never forget coming down for the first time to LA and going to Hollywood. And my parents, my dad hated being in LA. He wanted to be down in, San Diego. And I love that too, like by the beach, and, he liked nice things. He was he didn't want to be in gritty Hollywood. Right. But my dad was really, really great. And we actually went to the Guitar Center on Sunset Boulevard, as well as the one in the Valley in Sherman Oaks on Ventura Boulevard. And there I got my first Floyd Rose, I think, which was my dad bought me a guitar that day, which was a Kramer Pacer with a blue burst finish, a single humbucker in the bridge, and a chrome Floyd And I wish I still had that guitar. Oh God, do I wish I still had that guitar. That is one that got away for sure. That, I probably sold a few years later, but I remember it was such a good day with my folks. And, he was nice enough to put up with LA for a day and take me there and buy me this guitar. Oh, are you kidding me? Like, I just, yeah, and guitar from Los Angeles that that was this Kramer with a chrome floor. It was just so cool, and I'll never forget getting it. And my memory, so I've got a great memory of that day. When I drive down Ventura Boulevard, I still think about that day now. I mean, I've driven down it about 1,000,000 times, and I lived like right off Ventura Boulevard for like 5 years. And, but I still think about it all the time when I'm in Sherman Oaks specifically and drive by where that Guitar Center was. I think about that day. And, but I was going to say, when we were in Hollywood, I'll never forget driving down Sunset Boulevard, close to Sunset and La Brea, sort of towards, past the Guitar Center and stuff like that. And it was like the sun was going down. It was one of those like sunset, gorgeous, like red, beautiful, and I probably was listening to something cool on my Walkman. And I'll never forget there was a friggin' billboard for Rat, like up above Sunset Boulevard for like, I think Dancing Undercover probably, or maybe it was for, I don't remember the time. I can't remember the year. So it was either Dancing Undercover or it was Invasion of Your Privacy. I just don't remember. But I remember the Rat billboard. And I thought, this town is amazing. Like, there's a billboard for Rat. Billboards in my hometown were like for Tire Supply or whatever, like, like automotive, you know what I mean? There was nothing, and there was never a sunset like that, and that warm weather, and a friggin' Rat billboard, like over it was just meant everything to me, and all that implanted and imprinted on me. And I was like, I got so excited, I almost knocked over the rest of my toast. But, and that's a big part of why I ended up here, I was like, that's where I'm going, man. That's where my heart is. I want to go there and friggin' play rock and roll, man. But all that stuff, was embodied in that Van Halen music, the parts you're talking about, like Women in Love and those gorgeous, it sounded like California. And then you get there and you were like, here I am, man. It's like, this is what I'm doing. And I did it. I friggin' did it. I moved here and I did it. I never left. You know what I mean? I made it work. So kudos to me. See, you guys helped me out to get to that place today. I needed it. Yeah. Because as I said at the beginning, it's been kind of a week. So thanks. Total turnaround. I feel good. I should probably go on that note, now that I've been selfishly talking about my own experience but that was my path. Van Halen 2 sounds better than Van Halen 1, but I like Fair Warning and 84 sounds. I get it. I get it. That's great. We're having a good Van Halen talk. We haven't done that for a while. Probably drives everyone else crazy that isn't Van Halen fans, but yeah, they would have left by now. They didn't last this long. So we still get 260 people online. So yeah. I have the same track issues with Zappa's "You Are What You Is," and that's all there is. Doesn't go something like that. I remember that tune. Friend made a cassette for me a few years ago with the sides reversed, and to this day I can't listen to it in the correct order. Yeah. Diver Dan has Cathedral, which is simple but great. Cathedral, Secrets, Hang 'Em High, Little Guitars. Exceptional. All of that, those are the tunes for me. I can take or leave Dancing in the Streets. Not really a fan of at all. It was, and I don't think Eddie was either, which is why you can feel it through. He's just like, come on. This is playing a cover song, like with, they didn't need it by that point, but it was a rushed album because of, putting out a single, and then now they wanted a whole album. It was like, I think they really needed wanted some downtime, and instead they had to put a record out, and they ran in and did that and made a 36-minute album, or whatever it is. 34 minutes is very short, but 4 incredible tunes, on there. It's almost like an EP to me, because it's like, I don't really listen to the other ones, but those are great. It's like a great EP. It's almost like the 90s tunes, Can't Get This Stuff No More, and what was the other one? I can't remember the name of it. But those tunes were great too, When they had to, they could kick out some bangers real quick. God, I wish that had been a whole record. The mid '90s. Come on, go listen to those right now. Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna go down to the bottom of the chat here. Just make. Oh, there's a Peter with his super chat. You're too kind, my friend. I appreciate you very much. Thank you. Dropping some cafe cash. You're too kind, man. Videos this week. The Timeline MX. I was talking about it earlier. That's coming this week for sure. We'll see what else I can get done this week. I'm just not sure yet. I got to go to out to SUR actually on Monday for a little PT50 development meeting, as well as some other stuff. Got to talk about some clinics that I got coming up in the fall. So there'll be news on that coming pretty soon. So that kills Monday, but I'm basically done with the video. So I think I can wrap it up and finish it today if I just work for a couple hours in here and knock it out. Let's get it done. Timeline MX video. Yeah. And then I'll see what rest of the week I can get done. I got to get a video done for the Lost Lunas, speaking of Van Halen sounds. And then there's this amp video I got to think about too that's coming up here pretty quick. I really wanted to make a video about my Les Paul, my 53, and kind of show it off and stuff like that. Just talk about old Les Pauls because it's a passion of mine. I love them, and it's such a fun guitar. So I kind of wanted to do that as a fun, like I did one on my 335, and I want to make a video like that about that guitar. So hopefully I can get to that as well. Just a little passion project video. Yeah. Anyway, so Timeline will be the first one that you'll see this week over the next few days. But anyway, you guys, I really appreciate you. Once again, thank you. Thank you very much for always cheering me up, and it was great this week. So appreciate you, and I'll see you next week. Everybody have a terrific week. And anybody wants that Germino, let me know. Great amp. It'll be fully serviced and ready to go. If anybody wants, I'll look at my email and see if anybody bites on it. I'll probably do one of those because Dave's was so successful. Do one of those sale Sunday lives relatively soon. I think that should start happening. I need to get into that because it's time to do a little bit of cleaning. Some great stuff that I just don't need or can't use right now that I'll put together and see if anybody's interested in. And that's it. All right. Oh, Full Bug is a great one as well. That's awesome. That's awesome. Okay, I can't talk anymore, so I got to go. But thanks again, Peter, for the super chat. You're the best, and all you guys are the best. Thanks for your super chats, and thanks for cheering me up. See you around. Have a good week.